Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to Emmanuel Medeiros for the invitation to participate at this event. Congrats, Emmanuel, for your work and achievements. Let me also say hi to Pedro Machado and address a special word to Fernando Veiga Gomes, my colleague from Abreu Advogados. Unfortunately, I'm not able to attend this event in person since I'm in Brazil now for academic duties scheduled a long time ago. Going directly to the topic of this brief testimony, Portuguese sports justice needs an urgent need of reform. In my opinion, most of the issues that require attention can be resolved by the Portuguese state through a few surgical measures. First, sports justice must be less expensive. For example, the fees and costs payable in order to bring a case before the Portuguese Court of Arbitration for Sport are so high that they amount to a denial of access to justice. In this context, it is urgent to strongly reduce the impact of the values enshrined in the statutory instrument in force. Second, it is also necessary to get rid of the very short time limits provided in some sport federation regulations for the filing of appeals, because it limits to the access to a fair trial, a fair legal process. Third, it is also necessary to put an end, or in other words, to set up limits to the creation of bodies within sport federations, which have a role which is more or less parallel to that of the disciplinary commissions and appeal boards, because this situation causes confusion regarding the jurisdiction of these bodies and delays the corresponding proceedings, and this also applies to the Portuguese League. Fourth, it is likewise essential to enact a legislative reform by clarifying the legal framework governing sport federations in order to remove confusion regarding the powers of appeal boards and the Portuguese Court of Arbitration for Sport, such as arose in the Palhinha case. Fifth, as far as sport ethics is concerned, there is a need for a legally imposed overarching sanctions system, which applies equally to all sports along the same lines as the anti-doping legislation, which is established in accordance with the WADA Code. The state should prepare and issue standard form regulations regarding the various issues confronted by sport ethics, namely violence, racism, xenophobia, corruption, unsporting sports betting, and other conduct that affect the truth, honesty, and transparency of sport. I am therefore in favor of uniformization, standardization of the regulations. This will benefit the sport federations as they will no longer have to draft regulations and they will have regulations that are legally compliant. The state will also benefit as it will have fewer supervisory tasks, although it currently neglects its supervisory obligations in this field. The introduction of these standard form regulations will also put an end to the major, illogical, and unjustified differences that exist between the regulations of the various sports in Portugal. Six, I also favor increased emphasis on sports sanctions rather than on monetary pecuniary sanctions. It is better to hit fans in the heart than to hit clubs and sport companies in the pocket. Last but not the least, in my opinion, the sports justice reform must urgently needed is the abolition, or at least major restriction, of the right to appeal against decisions of the Portuguese Court of Arbitration for Sport. Even in cases of necessary compulsory arbitration, the current provision for appeals from the Portuguese Court of Arbitration for Sport to the Southern Region Central Administrative Court or to one of the state courts of appeal should be abolished. This is because the right of appeal reduces the Portuguese Court of Arbitration for Sport to an intermediate level of sport justice and considerably delays final decisions, which are often handed down during the next season, by which time they have little practical significance. I am well aware that the original version of the Portuguese Court of Arbitration for Sport law provided that there was no right of appeal against the decision of the court, and that the Portuguese Constitutional Court held twice that the draft law was unconstitutional. However, the decision of the European Court of Human Rights that we are all aware of, the Mutu and Pextan case, seems to leave room for the solution that excludes a right of appeal, even in the so-called forced arbitration cases. It is therefore necessary to reconsider the issue. It is fundamental to strengthen the impartiality and specialization of decisions, but simultaneously to take the specificity of sport into consideration. Thank you very much.